welcome to How to Make a Great First Impression. I'm going to be covering the following things. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of an introduction to myself and my personal journey, because I think this is one of my personal experiences and takeaways from life. If you learn off of an expert who has always been good at something, quite often they're not able to translate it to those people that aren't. So I'm not one of those people. I wasn't very good at any of this stuff, and I've been on a long journey, which I'll tell you a little bit about. Also, we're going to explore the question, why is making a great first impression so important to your personal life and career? And then when we're going to spend most of the time is actually on the steps to being approachable, coming over as confident, and developing your presence. And then I'm going to finish the presentation by talking a little bit more around how I can help you further. Okay, so here we go. So here's a little bit about me. I'm a published author. I'll tell you a little bit about my book in a minute. I'm an executive coach, facilitator, public speaker, chartered occupational psychologist, NLP certified trainer, and I was even a dating coach for 3 years. But I am most well known for creating and delivering highly immersive and transformational personal development programs. And these are always around the leadership soft skills and advanced communication. So having been a principal consultant at a top-tier consulting firm, I've worked with many of the world's top organizations and leading public sector departments, and I've delivered work in over 24 different countries. Now, in that time, I've actually racked up 10,000 hours of professional people watching. So in other words, I'm paid to observe, assess, and develop people skills. And I've done this at all levels, but I'm mostly focused nowadays between middle and senior leaders. Now, everything I talk about is drawn from my own experiences or from observing what truly great leaders do. And I promise I will give you everything I can in the time we have, and I'm going to show you how to get support at the end if you need it or want it. So a little bit about how I roll. I do like to make webinars interactive. I'm not one of those people that just kind of blah, blah, blah for a whole hour. I find I tend to tune out after about 20 minutes if that's the case. So I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to throw up polls, and I'm going to get you to do exercises. Now, sometimes I do use colorful language, so forgive me, although I'll try and be on my best behavior tonight. I also like to share quite personal experiences. I believe sharing and using real life examples are much more powerful. Now, let me be clear about something. What I'm going to cover tonight is not rocket science. It's about simple structure and delivery. And I often hear people go, oh, yeah, I know that. Well, there's a difference between knowing and doing. And I tend to notice that there's a great incongruence between what people say they know and how they actually behave. So tonight is all about doing. So here's a rather embarrassing picture of me when I was 19 years old. And why am I showing you this picture? Because this is the sort of the before and after shot. I was a painfully shy and socially awkward and somewhat insecure child and young man. In fact, when I was young, I was so shy. I was so shy that I wouldn't actually answer the phone, the home phone, even in my late teens and early 20s in my home. And that's before the days of caller ID, because what if I didn't know the person on the other end of the phone? How embarrassing. And if someone knocked on the door, I wouldn't open the door. I'd creep round to the side window and I'd look through the curtain and I'd try and work out if I knew them, because what if I didn't know them and they were a salesperson and I couldn't resist? So this was a terrible problem, and it really did persist right into my mid-20s. So often when people have problems, we just kind of stick our heads in the sand and we pretend it isn't there. Well, unfortunately for me, there was no avoiding being socially awkward and shy. The problem was it made meeting people virtually impossible. And when I did, I was terrible at it. I just didn't understand the importance of physiology, and I wasn't making the best impression on people. And this was having an impact on my ability to make friends, my ability to be respected at work, and my ability to meet romantic partners, which is a whole other embarrassing topic, which I'm not really going to go into in this webinar. So in my mid-20s, I kind of embarked on a journey of self-discovery to improve my understanding of what makes others tick and how people think and what makes people influential. And through my various jobs, studies, and experiences, I gradually cracked each element of my particular personal problem. And as one problem was solved, what I like to call a higher quality problem always surfaced. So then I would go and look for ways in order to deal with that one. And along the route, I ended up becoming an outplacement consultant, a chartered occupational psychologist, an NLP certified trainer, an executive coach. And as I said before, I even did 3 years as a dating coach. And I've really made it my life's purpose to find out all of the social life hacks I can, and I haven't stopped yet. And my biggest takeaway from all of this is that influence and interpersonal excellence can be learned. You can systematize it and you can teach it. And there are lots of universal truths about human behavior. And if you follow them, you can actually unlock the many secrets. So what I learned has transformed me, I guess, into the socially confident person I am today. In fact, I was once told by a very senior public servant that I'm able to disrupt, which is a very buzzword at the moment, I'm able to disrupt other people's ways of thinking without them even knowing it. And I guess this is very much in alignment with the topic tonight, as the ability to make a great first impression is a great way of connecting with and having an impact on people. And I've brought some, I guess, really cool people into my life over the last few years, all as a consequence of working on my interpersonal and influence skills. And I guess that leads me to where I am today, doing what I do. So having personally transformed my own life and coaching now thousands of people over the last 15 years, I felt the need to create a company with one objective. And that is to enable every client to engage, understand, and influence whomever they want, whenever they want, for the benefit of their professional or personal life. And the engaging executive is all about interpersonal excellence. I take people from good to great or great to greater, depending on your starting point. And I only work with people who've been identified as future talent and who are passionate about developing themselves. In the most simplistic terms, I specialize in the basics of human behavior, the universals which apply to just about any occupation. So, Mythbusters. I like to read out the following myths because people often say these things to me before they start working with me. Myth number one is, I'm not a people person. Well, I got some news for you. You are. You're part of the human race, which has evolved to be pack animals. So we actually need each other to survive. So you really are a people person. You may have just forgotten how to do it. Okay, myth number two. I don't need to be a people person to succeed. Well, yes, you do. Now, why? Every time you interact with someone, you're being judged. Everything you say, everything you do is being judged. In fact, you cannot not communicate. I'll say that again. You cannot not communicate. Everything you do is communication. And the third myth, which I often hear, is I don't believe in all that body language stuff. All right, I did actually have a client say that to me once, and I replied, well, that's great. All you have to do now is just convince everybody else. Because unfortunately, well, whether you believe in it or not, other people look at you and the way that you present yourself and the way you hold yourself and even the little micro expressions that you might have on your face indicate something to somebody else. Because going back to that last statement, you cannot not communicate. So everything we're going to discuss tonight is about becoming a better people person. And by that, I mean a better communicator and influencer. What do you think the value is of making a great first impression? Have you, and just on some of these topics, have you ever noticed how some people just seem to present themselves in a confident or approachable or even a kind of charismatic way without even saying anything. And it's all around physiology. So these are great answers, and this is what we're going to have a little look at tonight. So just before we get into that, some of the topics, I'm going to share a little experience with you about when I used to be an outplacement consultant. So what I used to do is I used to help clients to go for job interviews, and I used to coach them in order, how they came across when they were being interviewed. And I learned about this thing called halo and horns effect. Now, you may have heard of this before. This occurs when you first meet someone and you unconsciously fire off all your biases, stereotypes, and prejudices. And just in case you were wondering, yes, we all have them. No one is devoid of these things. As pure as we'd like to think we are, we all have stereotypes and prejudices and biases. Now, this often happens in a window of between 30 seconds and 4 minutes. And after that point, you unconsciously put a halo or horns over that person's head. Now, if that person ends up, don't mean a real one, but metaphorically, if that person ends up with a halo, all you see is the good things. It's like you kind of like ignore anything that doesn't fit with that. And if the person has horns, all you notice are the bad things. So you screen out everything else. And in psychology, this is known as a confirmation bias. So if you're wondering where the expression, you never get the second chance to make a first impression comes from, now you know. Therefore, having the ability to make a positive first impression can make a big difference. So tonight, we're going to review how to get that positive confirmation bias going just through using your physiology. So let's start our journey at the top of the body, and we're going to work our way down. All right, so ask yourself a question. Which part of the face do you tend to notice first when talking to someone? Of course, it's blindingly obvious because it's the eyes. I have a big picture of an eyeball, so I'm hoping you worked out the answer before I said it. But the power of eye contact can't be understated. And whilst there may be some intercultural differences, the eyes are the most telling aspect of a person. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a disclaimer here. Bad joke alert. Did you hear the joke about the extroverted accountant? He looks at your shoes when he speaks to you. I know it's terrible. It's a terrible joke. But the importance is in the message. What do you believe holding eye contact with someone projects to them? So what do you believe being able to hold eye contact with someone projects to them? All right, here's some answers. So holding eye contact actually makes people be perceived as being more dominant and powerful, but at the same time, more warm and personable, also more attractive and likable. Maybe that's the relationship element. It actually, again, people are perceived who can hold eye contact for longer as more qualified, skilled, competent, and valuable, more trustworthy, honest, and sincere, and more confident and emotionally stable. Pretty impressive list of things, right? Just from being able to maintain eye contact with people. Okay, so the next question is, which eye should you focus on when speaking to someone? Is it the right eye, the left eye, or it just doesn't matter? So click. So this would be a little bit interesting for those of you who don't know this, but it's actually the left eye. Now, why? Because scientific studies have found that your dominant eye tends to look at the opposing eye of someone else. So imagine someone standing right in front of you. Your right eye, if that's your dominant eye, looks straight across to that person opposite you, which happens to be their left eye. And according to my optometrist, 80% of people are right eye dominant. So let's test out that little assumption right now. What I want you to do is we're going to do a bit of an eye dominance test. So if you've not done this before, if you've been to the opticians, you've probably have done this before and you might already know. But if you haven't, let's do this little experiment. What I want you to do is I want you to pick a spot. Pick a spot on the wall. So you might need to turn away from your screen if it's particularly close. Pick a spot on the wall. It has to be something which is, has a discernible point of focus to it. And I want you to look at that spot. And then with both eyes open, I want you to put your right hand, point your finger so the edge of the finger is lined up with the point that you're looking at. And then what I want you to do is I want you to close your left eye. Now, if your finger is still pointing at that spot, then you're right eye dominant. So in other words, if you close your left eye and your right finger is lined up with the dot because you're looking at your right eye dominant. And if it's not, if it's way off, try it the other way around. Look through your left eye, close your right eye, and if that lines up, your left eye dominant. So if you didn't know which eye is your dominant one, now you do. Now, what's interesting about this is the brain, as you may well know, the brain is lateralized. In other words, it has certain brain functions which it does on one side and certain brain function does on the other side. And what we tend to do is the opposite side of the brain manages the opposite side of the body. So the right side of your brain looks after the left side of your body, and the left side of your brain looks after the right side of your body. And this also happens with emotions, because your emotions are processed by the right side of your brain. So according to research, when they've looked at micro muscle movements, your left side of your face is actually slightly more emotionally expressive. Now, I'm not talking massive irregularities, that would just look a bit weird, but actually the left side of your face is a little bit more expressive than the right side of your face. So if you train yourself to look at somebody's left eye, you will notice more subtle emotions, as well as presenting yourself as more dominant, more warm, more attractive and likable and valuable and trustworthy. So just that little life hack there could make all of the difference. So your homework is now to go forth after this session and start having a look and see how long you can engage people when talking to them just by looking at the left eye alone. Now remember, word of caution, we're not talking about doing a death stare here. I'm not talking about staring someone out and you're not allowed to blink. It's not a blinking contest. You are actually allowed to look at people and look normally with a little bit of warmth in your eyes. All right, so we've done with the eyes now. Let's move down the face. Okay, so according to the research done in the University of California, San Francisco, there are 19 types of smile, but apparently there is only one true type of smile. Now, we're not going to talk about all 19 because we don't have the time, but basically there is a difference between the polite smile and the Duchenne smile. Now, Berkeley University described a polite smile as, I'm going to get you to do this in a minute, so listen to my instructions. A polite smile is a sort of smile you have when you open the door for someone and kind of hold it open, or you walk past someone in the corridor that you work with. And basically it's when the corners of your mouth being slightly uplifted, but the eye muscles remain completely relaxed with no movement. So you're really just smiling lightly with your mouth and not at all with your eyes. So have a little go at this. I know it's a bit weird just looking at a screen and smiling, and I can't even see you, but have a go now to feel what it feels like to do the polite smile. So just smile with your lips lightly. Don't even separate your teeth that much. Separate your lips to show your teeth. Just that little smile, and make sure it's nice and neutral up the top. Well, that smile there that you've just done, that basically doesn't do much at all. That's just polite. That's not going to open any doors for you. That's not going to change anything. Now, there's only one true smile, and that is the Duchenne smile, named after, my pronunciation of this man's name is terrible, Julien Benjamin Duchenne. who was a contemporary of Darwin, specializing in neurology. And he conducted experiments where he would zap single muscles of the face with electricity and then look at the changes. I don't know why he did that, but that's just his history of it. Anyway, in a Duchenne smile, the cheek muscles are raised in addition to the size of the mouth. And most importantly, the muscles around the eyes get crow's feet. And it's almost impossible not to smile back at a full Duchenne smile. So I would actually go as far as to say a smile is contagious. Now, have you ever had that experience when you walk down the street and you're thinking fondly about another time with other people and it's kind of brought a smile up in your face and you just happen to catch someone else's eye whilst you're feeling like that? Guess what happened? I can tell you already, they smile back at you. Why? Because you can't resist a Duchenne smile. A polite smile, meh, but a Duchenne smile, it actually has a kind of a physiological effect on you. And a smile has been scientifically proven to lift spirits in yourself and others, because when you smile, you make other people smile. Now, there was a very famous experiment by Dr. Fritz Schrack that proved the power of smiling. Hang on, I've got a question here. How's Donald Trump's smile? Do I really have to answer that question? There are many qualities Donald Trump has that I used to admire, and there are many that he has that I don't necessarily admire. I'm a bit indifferent on his smile. It just lacks a little bit of genuineness. But I like the question, and it's a bit thought-provoking. I'm going to move on from the topic of Donald Trump now. All right, so getting back to the famous experiment by Dr. Fritz Schrack. Basically, what he asked people to do, he got some volunteers, he divided it into two groups of people, and he asked them to hold a pencil, one group to hold a pencil between their teeth. So if you can imagine having a pencil held right between your teeth, so that would force your the back of your the size of your mouth back into a kind of a smiling type of position, and the rest were asked to hold the pencil between their lips. Okay, I've got another little comment here. Barack Obama, on the other hand, has a Duchenne smile quite often. I am a big fan of Barack Obama, and not necessarily his policies, but the way he conducts himself and the way he communicates. In fact, he's going to come up a little bit later. He has an exceptional power to use his physiology when he communicates. I'd say he has a great smile. So I like that point. So anyway, with this guy, basically when people had this pencil between their teeth, they actually noticed a measurable difference in their well-being. But when it was between their lips, nothing. So interestingly, some people that I've coached in the past seem to be uncomfortable going from a serious or neutral face to a smiling face. And once upon a time when I was a dating coach, I had a male client who always looked stern. The problem was when you approach someone, they would always react to him as if he was about to give them aggro, he was about to start an argument or something along those lines. So when I asked him why he never smiled, he simply explained it felt false, going from stern to smiling. So I said, all right, let's try this. And at this point, a little technique which I've called the sunrise smile was born. So I explained to him that the most natural smiles are when we build a smile over 2 to 3 seconds. It's the difference between turning a light on when it goes instantly from dark to light and watching the sunrise over the horizon in the morning. So I want you to practice with me now. I can't see you doing it. I'm going to take it on faith that you're doing it, but have a go. What I'd like you to do is this. I would like you to start with a neutral expression. And then what I want you to do is we're going to work down from the eyes down to the mouth. I want you to feel your cheeks start to lift and your eyes starting to get crow's feet. So you can, like, you're starting to get that warmth, those smiling eyes, and your cheekbones, cheek muscles, are starting to lift. Then I want you to feel the corners of your mouth stretch out to the side and upwards. And then finally, I want you to feel your lips part to reveal your pearly whites. And the whole thing should take 2 to 3 seconds. So from the top down to the bottom in one, I mean, I'm even doing it here. I don't know why, because you can't see it. But from the top down to the bottom, 2 to 3 seconds. So there you are. I hope you did that. You've just developed a new smile. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you, as another bit of homework, tomorrow, I'd like you to test drive your new sunrise smile. And I want you to smile at 3 people that you don't know and see what reaction you get. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some more other elements of being engaging and making a great impression. So Dr. Paul Ekman, a renowned body language expert, said that the face is capable of 10,000 micro-expressions. And according to NIDA, the acting school, most people hardly use any of them. So when I was writing my book, Engage, I actually went away for the weekend to the Gold Coast. And I was sitting in a cafe, and in front of me was a man and a woman. And they appeared to be on a first or second date. I don't know this for a fact. It was just a guess based on my dating coaching days. And I was too far away from this couple to actually hear what they were talking about. But I could clearly see the man as he started to tell a tale. Now, to this day, I will never know if what I imagined was actually true or not. But it appeared he was telling a story about going fishing. And then about catching a fish. And then about having some engine trouble on his boat. How do I know this? Because it was the expressions in hand gestures he used that told the story. And it was completely captivating. And this brings me back to a point, or brings me to a point that I'm actually very passionate about, and that is using the full range of your personal color palette. So many people communicate in black and white, expressionless, flat, one-dimensional. This is such a waste of your natural gifts. The best communicators I have ever seen are the ones with the most variety in their expressions and in their voice and in their energy levels. Now, when I hear these people speaking, their voice is like listening to a symphony, because it doesn't just plod on, dum, 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 like modern contemporary dance music and a trance-inducing beat. It has moments where it's high, it has moments where it's low, it has moments where it's fast, it has moments where it's slow, just like a symphony does. And you pick the combination according to the message that you're trying to communicate at the time. So that actually, there's probably a whole bunch more, but I'm going to say 4 different energy levels that you can use. So there's low, economic, casual, and high. So for an emotionally sensitive topic, you might want to use a low energy. For example, I'm really sorry to hear that that's happened. For a more task-orientated discussion, you might want to use more of an economic energy. So let's get this done now. For a more social setting, you might want to use more of a casual energy. Hi, how are you? Oh, it's lovely to meet you. So how's your day going? And for a more upbeat moment, you might want to use a high energy. Let's imagine someone's just been given a promotion or had a baby or something along those lines. You go, oh, that's wonderful news. That's fantastic. But what you'll notice is there is a whole range of different energies there, and most people just stick to one. So in summary, try and use your entire color palette. And there's some homework for you over the next couple of days. I want you to observe those people you find most captivating and observe what they do. Okay, so we're going to move further down the body now, and we're going to have a look at what you do with your hands. So this is an extension of what we were just talking about, but I felt it was important enough to have its own segment. So being a professional people watcher, I'm forever studying what people do with their hands when they speak. So one thing I often look out for is in people when they're communicating is whether or not they have flappy hands. These are hands that kind of flap around and seem to be completely unrelated to the message that they're saying, and they just end up being quite distracting. Hand gestures should be like punctuation marks, not the words that make up the sentence. So waving your hands around in an uncontrolled fashion actually detracts from your message. And I once took an advanced presentation skills course, and for the first 3 days, we were not allowed to move our hands when we spoke. And I'm telling you, after years of using my hands, it was painful. However, when I was finally allowed to use them again, I became very conscious of how they felt and how I used them, and I started to use them with great purpose. Now, again, a bit like with the other thing, there are 4 zones in which the hands operate and can affect how your message is perceived or received by others. So let's have a little look at the different levels. So I've purposely used both the male and female icons here, although it does look a little bit like a public toilet. But let's not focus on that part. Let's just think about the line. So where I've drawn the line there, you'll notice it's anything below the waist. So if you're moving your hands around below the waist, typically that's associated with a fairly low energy kind of statement. For example, this is not the path we will be following. You can just imagine kind of flat hands being used in a sideways motion. This is not the path we're going to be following. The next level is communicating trust. So this is any hand movements made above the waistline and below the heart tends to convey a solid and grounded message, which is basically saying, you can trust me. So for example, if you were saying, this is an absolute must, then you would have a hands in this kind of zone. Then we have the heartfelt level. Now, this is a lot more specific. This is where people actually touch their chest or their heart as they speak. So, for example, they might say, I really feel for you, as they're touching their heart. And then the next level is vision and passion. So this is where people are communicating about something which is either very exciting to them or a vision of the future. You'll notice that their hands are actually above their shoulders. So imagine I'm doing this and I'm standing in front of you and my hands are raised and I'm saying, can you imagine a world where anything is possible? So this is just a couple of different ideas of how to use your hands, but when used with the right words and the right energy is incredibly powerful. So let's have a look at some real hand gestures using a model. That model is me. Now, when I was putting together this webinar, I actually spent an hour, and I really did. I spent an hour looking for images of hand gestures, and every image I found was one of those ones which was a Shutterstock or some other license required. So I think I'm in the wrong business. I should have been in the hand image business because it just seems it seems pretty ludicrous. So anyway, I ended up going, well, what am I going to use? So I reviewed a training program I ran recently, which just happened to have a professional photographer there who was taking some publicity shots. And so what you're about to see is some real hand gestures taken across a 30-minute segment that I ran. And it wasn't contrived to look perfect. I wasn't having these pictures taken to demonstrate different hand gestures. This is just the way that I use my hands. So with a degree of humility and a tad of embarrassment, the next few slides show me in a number of natural poses. So let's take a look. All right, so bearing in mind these shots were not taken as examples of the styles I've just described, let's interpret the hand gestures. I'm sure I'm going to end up regretting this, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a mini caption competition. What do I mean by that? What I want you to do is I want you to look at each picture. I'm going to show you 3, and I want you to write a statement in the chat box which matches the hand gesture. So imagine that these were your hands and you were saying a statement. And I want you to say a statement which you think matches the hand gesture. And if you want to, you can indicate the energy level as well. You can just say low, medium, or high. So we can have a bit of fun in this as long as you try and relate it to the energy levels that we discussed before. So here is the first one. So what I want you to do is in the box, looking at that hand gesture, think about what kind of energy level is this, and what would be something that could have been said. It doesn't matter what it is really, but something that could have been said that would have matched the hand gestures. So have a little think, pop it into the chat box. I like that, Jack. Yeah, stop doing this. So it would be kind of a, yeah, low, we are not doing this, very good. Low, yeah, fantastic. All good stuff. Excellent. Well, you're obviously the advanced class here because I had said that that was an emotionless type of thing. Low energy, steady, mate, take it easy. Yep, I like that too. Excellent. Let's see how you fare on the next one. So have a little think about this one. What are the sorts of things that I could be saying? Listen. Yeah, I like that. Listen. Yeah, because that's that very definitive kind of hand movement. It's like a chopping kind of motion. Medium, I have decided on this. Good. Let's think this way. Very good. Loving it. Okay, great. So this one is pretty much toot toot. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's funny. I'm dreading what you're going to say on the next one then. Okay, so this one I kind of, again, remember I didn't do these in order to demonstrate the styles. I've done it retrospectively, I've labeled them, but I would say this is more of a kind of a trust level. So that's pretty much on par with what you've all said. Let's have a look at the last one. I don't know if I should have picked this one. What would you say for this one? Maybe your comment there, Tim, is more appropriate for this one. Okay, we're all going to have fun. Yeah, I like that one. Like that one. It's definitely an energy up, isn't it? It's like hands are higher. You can see it's not like fully over the shoulders, but it's definitely up there. It was incredible. Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's all good. What else do we think? I'm surprised I haven't had any inappropriate comments yet, but maybe I'm relieved at the same time. Any other thoughts? Come on, there's got to be a funny guy out there somewhere. Like, yeah, absolutely. All right, good stuff. So this one was more the high energy, the vision, or the passion. Cool. All right. So we've had a little look at some hand gestures, and it's interesting because I gave you the hand gestures and then you kind of gave me statements, but it all kind of matched. And so this is the important thing. If you think about how to use your hands and your words and your energy level at the same time, it can have a really powerful impact. All right. So we're now going to have a little look at posture when you're standing and listening, and then we're going to have a look at posture when you're standing and talking. Now, some people don't really know how to use their hands when they're standing and listening. And one of the most likely things for men to do is actually put their hands in their pockets. Now, don't shoot me for this one. Barack Obama, as I said before, he's exceptionally good at using his body language, and I'm sure he was meaning to look very chilled out here. However, if you do this when someone's talking to you, unless it really is an informal situation, it can come across as very informal and overly casual. And God forbid how it looks if you start playing with your phone whilst it's in your pocket. All right, now, here's another picture of me. Again, I wasn't doing this pose on purpose. It just happens to be a way that I was taught to stand once upon a time by a NIDA actor. And this is called the neutral stance. Now, your hands, in this stance, your hands should be together, one on top of the other, and level with your belly button. That's really important, that your hands should be level with your belly button and your shoulders and arms kind of relaxed. And your feet should be the distance from each other, which is from the heel of your foot to the ball of your foot. So actually not shoulder width, that's too far apart, actually like half shoulder width. And what you'll notice is that a lot of politicians stand this way, as well as the royal family. And the reason why is it gives very little away. So what I'd like you to do now is just have a little bit of fun with me. I can't tell if you're actually going to do this, but I just hope you do. I'd like you to stand up, and I'd like you to actually do this pose now. So just stand straight up and put your feet together at sort of like half shoulder width, have an upright back, and sort of put one hand over the other and just sort of have it level with your belly button. And this is actually a really good pose if you're sort of standing at listening to someone talk, you're at a networking function, you're just in that kind of receive mode, because it's not hands in the pockets, it's not hands on the hip, which can come across as a bit dominant. It's just a really nice neutral stance. All right, that's enough of that one. Now, just a word of wisdom. Do be careful where you put your hands, because this is the wrong way of doing a neutral pose. And apart from looking like they're on the wall of a penalty shootout, the position of the hands is kind of drawing the eye down to somewhere one shouldn't really be caught looking. So for the gentlemen out there listening, keep it above waist height. All right. And that kind of brings us on to the last little physiology tip that I'm going to share with you, which is the art of stillness. Have you ever noticed that people with presence have a very still head when they speak? If you want to know how this looks in motion, watch a clip from The House of Cards with Kevin Spacey in it. It's a very powerful portrayal of a person who has presence, and I've actually seen this for real in both men and women. And the less you move your head when you talk or listen, the more presence you tend to project. However, as with all these tips, this is one to use at the right time, in the right place, and with the right person. So in summary, we have looked at eye contact and the left eye gaze, the secret of the Duchenne smile, how to use the full color palette of your expression, and also what to do with your hands when you both speak and listen. So right now, as your coach for the night, I'm going to help you make a decision. Whether you can either kind of get results you want and change your life forever, or you can decide to keep going and doing what you're doing. But remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. By using my methods, you can learn to connect with and influence people far more effectively. But what I've shown you tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, I'm not sure why you turned up tonight. Maybe it's because you wanted to make an even better first impression. Maybe it's because you always get feedback that you lack presence. Maybe it's because you've never really considered how to truly use your physiology for maximum effect. But now you know how to. You know how to own a room without even speaking. You know how to use your physiology for maximum effect. And you know how to create presence. And that might bring up the question for you. How can I learn even more about engaging with, understanding, and influencing people? Well, you can do this the slow way, or you can do this the fast way. You can try and do it all yourself, and there are plenty of great books out there, including mine, of course, or you could draw on the experience of the Engaging Executive Company and fast track what it took me 20 years to distill. So in order to simplify the complexities of social interaction and influence, I created the Engage model. It's basically 6 modules, all made up of lots of different tools. So tonight we were touching on the entrance stage, which is all about the first 30 seconds of any kind of interaction. But then you need, once you make a great first impression, you need to back that up by having something to talk about. So the network stage is all about how do you introduce yourself to people you've never met before? How do you go from big talk to small talk? How do you deepen rapport? And then how do you end the conversation on a high, which leaves a great impression? But if you were only just to make a great impression and not actually get anything done, that wouldn't necessarily be a good thing. So the next stage is guide. Guide is all about how to guide and influence a conversation. How do you use more physiology with purpose? How do you use linguistics? How do you use the concept of chunk size in order to control the level of a conversation? But again, if you were only to control conversations for your own purposes, that probably wouldn't end so well. So the next stage of the model is acknowledge. This is all about how to understand and value other people, how to get inside their heads, how to truly, truly develop empathy. Now, once you can do these things, you're going to start getting invited to longer and deeper social interactions. Maybe it will be networking events. Maybe it will be social events. Maybe it will be parties. Maybe it will be corridor conversations. Maybe it will be conversations with the boss. But you're going to need to be able to go the distance. And so the glow stage is about always having something to talk about. It's about the art of improvisation, the use of humor, and the ability to tell stories that engage people. And once you can do all of these things, it's time for you to stop being the expert, and it's time for you to actually start coaching and developing your team to greatness. So this is what the enlightened stage is all about. It's how can you stop being the expert and actually allow your team to do what they need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop in the link to the 15-minute fact find again, and I want you to start pondering on whether or not you'd like to have that free chat. It is a free chat. So as you look at that model, I want you to think there around the engaged model. I wonder which one of these areas, you don't have to answer this in the chat box, just have a ponder. Which one of these areas resonates with you the most? Which one of them is blocking you from moving forward in your career? If there was one that you looked at and you went, God, you know what? If I could just get that one working, everything would fall into place. Well, which one of these holds the key to getting more out of your work and personal life? Because I want you to start thinking about whether or not you'd like to have a bit of a free chat. Now, I know some people on the webinar have already had that free chat, so that's all good. But if you haven't, why not go ahead and book a session? Because the purpose of the free chat is very simple. I have a massive belief based on 20 years of professional observations that it is the truly successful people need to be both a knowledge worker and a people person. One without the other is like Lennon without McCartney. Unless you've got both, it's going to be very difficult to win both hearts and minds. So the 15-minute fact find, which is effectively the 15-minute chat, is a way of helping you to crystallize exactly what's holding you back. It will be like a friendly interrogation, and I'll be asking you a whole bunch of questions of how that will give you real clarity around things like, what do you really want to get out of both your personal life and your career? I'll be asking you questions like, what is the current reality around this, which for some of you may be uncomfortable, but we need to do it. We need to kind of get through that. And finally, I'll be asking you, what is getting in the way of you achieving your goals and desires? Because it's not until we've identified these blockers that we can actually do anything about it. So we're right at the very end of the presentation now, but there's just a couple of things. I really would like to hear from anyone, providing you kind of fit this pattern of behaviors. I only really work with people who are willing to go outside their comfort zone. So if you're the sort of person that, doesn't really like much of a stretch, you like to keep doing what you're doing, then it's not worth us having that chat. I only like to work with people who can be open and honest about what's holding you back. So if you're going to put a nice veneer over it and pretend that everything's fine, there's no point us having that chat. I only work with doers, not thinkers. If you kind of go, yeah, I know that, but you don't ever do it, and if you did do it, you wouldn't be feeling the way you felt, then this chat isn't for you. So again, 15-minute chat. This is the last slide of the presentation. I only have 12 places a month because the rest of the time I'm busy running my Engaging Executive program. If you want to get a free copy of my book, Engage, that's only available if you book in a chat today. The chat doesn't have to be today. You just have to click on the link today, book a chat for any time in the future. And once we have that chat, the book is yours. So if you haven't already done so, folks, please book in a chat. It's completely free. It may actually be very helpful to you. It may change your life. It may change your career. Who knows where a free conversation will lead?